my name is Sweeti Rath. My mother decided to embarrass me for entire life by making a nickname. If some of you are coming from the Delhi and Punjab background, names like Happy Singh, Sweety Singh, and Lovely Singh are very common. And I was born in Delhi, so my neighbor auntie decided to give this name, and that became my name. So many times, my companies that I work and being an HR professional, it is a little embarrassing. But I should say, my husband has a big heart because he accepts everybody calling his wife sweetie. So, uh, I have been working in the human resource field from the last 16 years. I come with an experience of business partnering, compensation benefit, learning interventions and development interventions, predominantly in the organizational development space, and the employer branding. I have worked predominantly with a lot of product companies in the IT space, which are in manufacturing, in automobile, in CRM. And currently, I work as a regional head for the APAC region for a software company which works in the contact center industry, building products. So every time when you call a HDFC Standard Life or a SBI credit card, the dialers or the IVR that you use is built by my company. I have recently joined this company less than a year, and my next, I guess I'm allotted about under half an hour. I would try to talk on few things that I have felt on my journey of transition of an HR person into a learning and a continuous development individual. I'm also going to be briefly touching upon, without exactly taking the name of the business, but two areas or two case studies where there was a business, I would say, problem given to us, and how effectively the entire working team came together to fetch it for us as a solution. Again, coming back to all of you are professionals here, I think it's what I just loved about this particular slide was each one teach one, right? I mean, that is the entire concept of train the trainer. It is so easy to put it on this busy verbose slide that I have prepared, but it becomes extremely difficult to deliver it. And some of the great points that Sayantan covered on a virtual platform, it just adds on to the worry. But I just wanted to ask the audience here before I even venture out. Um, any of here in the audience who's there who could possibly even put up their hand if you don't really want to turn on the camera and answer. But have you really taken the journey of learning as a choice, or it just came and fell in your lap? Or if you've become a facilitator to learning, you've become somebody who is a subject matter expert. Um, that was a choice that you selected, or you just said, you know what, this is an area that my boss told me to work and I started developing an interest. Anybody wants to sort of share maybe a brief second if they have such a career movement, and I'll tell you why I'm asking after I get some responses. I think people are able to hear me, and there isn't anything that I am asking which people are not understanding, right?
Hi, sweetie. Shivam here.
Yes,
Am I
Shiv.
audible? Yeah. So, my opinion regarding to your question, which you have asked, is according to me, uh, I entered this particular domain of professional trainer or facilitator is something on my own. And earlier, I was working with JSW Steel Limited, then I switched my company to Narrowlight Paints, and right now I'm working with Mahindra and Mahindra. So, as I see my career, uh, growth is something which I thrive upon. So, as you know, if you are there in a well kind of a longer period, so well situation for a longer period, your learning abilities as well as your experiences, your capabilities for that purpose limits a certain point of view. So that is also called as comfort zone, if you would agree with me. Yeah. So after certain period of time, you will have to take some certain decisions, whether you want to be in your comfort zone or whether you want to exit your particular zone and get into the other zones of life. So this particular field of training others develops an idea to me that while teaching or training others, I should be trained first, right? I should be up to the mark of teaching others or sharing my knowledges, sharing my expertise of that particular domain to others. So, in simple words, while you train somebody else, it becomes a necessary process to uh, grow yourself first.
Absolutely. And I think, Shivam, you touched upon a very interesting concept here, which I would like all of us to just ponder and think for. It is the process of unlearning. I heard Sayantan speak before me that when suddenly March 23rd, Janata curfew was announced and the lockdown was announced, nobody prepared or learned anything. We started unlearning. Our lifestyle got impacted. Our life really did not get impact. Now, when we look back between March and September, we might think that yes, we didn't watch a movie in a theater, we didn't send our children to school, we did not go to a mall as often, or did not fly to our parents or relatives. But people who had to still get married, they did. People who had to still deliver children, they did. And people who had to train, they continued finding interesting ways to do. I think I will quickly jump into what I thought was my journey, which I would want to share in the last 16 years. As a trainer, as a facilitator, we always are extremely self-critical. Today, because I have the screen sharing, I have my camera on, I'm putting in all the energy, I'm constantly trying to evaluate my performance. And often trainers are measured in a very objective fashion based on possibly these three things. The reaction, which is in a virtual platform, a little difficult because everything replaces by emoji. Response, I may not be able to see a nod, but when I get a response, I feel, okay, somebody is listening to me. And of course, when you walk out of this 20 minutes, you really don't think that it was a monologue in many ways, but it was not something that did not catch your mind share. So if I look at the success of the training, somewhere I am more intent in going in a direction, including the fact that the facilitator is becoming the center of the training. It's almost like if I have to compare a movie, while there is an entire procedure of technicians, directors, producers, everybody coming together, but the face of the movie delivery, the fame and the blame, both goes to the people seen on the screen. And I think some of us who have decided to choose a career are possibly those prodigal sons who are on the screen. And hence, it is more important for us to be either credible worthy to be there or build credibility over a period where your experience comes handy. And like what Shivam just said, keep pushing the envelope, right? Sometimes you train because you want to learn. You don't train because you want to teach. This is a very interesting word, andragogy. Some of you might have heard about this. I'm a mother of an 8-year-old son, and he is way smarter than me in using some of these tools because I never had online classes. My teachers were never trained. Even my son's teacher are not trained, but they are trained. Now, andragogy is a concept of teaching adults. Teaching children is, it's like a cloud. You can keep pushing it, and the cloud keeps taking new shape and form. But teaching adults is not as simple. In fact, every trainer, every facilitator who is, and I'm more concentrating on the corporate side of it because that is where I have spent most of my experiments and have got results, is how do we engage them? Because I think I heard somebody said earlier that I did multiple things, yet I heard Sayantan. Even I guess I did multiple things. I was having my coffee, I responded to some WhatsApp chat. Today is Teachers' Day, so I made sure that my son is wishing his teachers, but I was still listening to Shantan. So if my audience, which is people like you all, what is running in your mind? Can I really understand it? See how your mind responds to something that I'm giving as a nugget. Again, the what's in for me, for my learner's mind, is extremely important than what's in the trainer's ability. This concept is something that is widely used across. There are books written, there are a lot of content about how to teach adults or how to make adult learning having more impact. But these are, again, it might sound a little theoretical to some of you all, but I think we should possibly try and look at adult learning is all about how you are helping your trainee's mind to think through a self-directed approach. Please don't tell them do this, do that, do this. It doesn't work. I am inspired by possibly people like Shivam or others, and I'm just taking your name because I just got to know your name now, who are in this discussion and how their experience is something that we are learning from. So almost like experiential learning, which I think Praveen mentioned right at the beginning. And the very important reason that all of you have decided to spend this Saturday 3.5 hours in front of your laptops or phones is what is that is the reason for you to attend this. If as a facilitator, as a trainer, I understand your motivation factor, I might use that as a guiding beacon. And last but not the least, somebody was definitely talking about the fact that can we apply this in real life? Like I'll give you an example. LinkedIn creates groups. These groups are again moderated. Some of them are private learning groups. Some of them are public learning groups. Now, when you send an invitation to some of these groups, it takes about 24 hours, and your invitation is accepted. You participate in a lot of discussions. You can post your questions, get your answers. So what we are trying to facilitate or teach, there has to be an applicability. In children's mind, many of us who are science students here, for the longest period of my life, I thought, where will I use trigonometry? Because I did electrical engineering, did HR, did nothing about electrical engineering. My dad was fully upset about it, but I did not know where is that sine curve that I will use. I wish I would have done something about it. But that was my children or child or growing up education. But today, what I'm trying to do is I'm constantly finding where is the applicability, where is the learnability. So whenever we are going and designing anything, let's keep these things in mind. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on techniques because there is so much written about it. There are so many concepts, but my personal favorite, or I would say the most result delivering instructional design model. Many of you who have come from a learning and development background will be very familiar with this, the whole analyze, design, development, implement, and evaluation. I'm again not going to define or go into this. Everybody has access to information today and read it. Why this was important is this doesn't have to be just a learning professional using it. And that's exactly what we did. The example that I'm going to talk about is one of the organizations where I was working in a capacity of a business partner. I was managing a particular region, which was predominantly Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Pune, and we had to set up a team which was supposed to be running 24/7 in a 4-day working model, and the enablement had to be done almost as quickly as you're hiring. So just imagine like an assembly line. You're hiring people, you're enabling people, you're pushing them onto the floor. I did not know anything about going and developing a learning solution. But I approached the instructional design model. I read about it, there are books about it. And I felt that it was extremely systematic. It will give you results and you can easily measure them. This is what, again, this is a very busy slide. Some of you can take time to read this, but I'm not going to read through the slide. what I want all of us to sort of try and focus our attention was this assembly line that I was talking about. Now, this is a contact center working for World Bank 24/7. Now, contact center hiring, if some of you guys have known, this is technical contact center, so not customer care, but these are people who are going to work on servers, who are going to work on rack of servers and make sure that the servers are never down, no production downtime. Now, there are tickets that a customer raise. There could be severity 1, 2, 3. So when you're working 24/7, it's very difficult to pull out people into a classroom, train them, enable them. Now, this knowledge over a period of time becomes an IP. So when I am hiring like close to about 30 people in a month, how do I enable them that these 30 become productive in a couple of quarters and actually start addressing my tickets? So to enable them, I can't go to any training agency, pay them, because it can't work. I need to get my own subject matter experts who are either team leaders, managers, business heads, who are also managing day-to-day operations. And you know, they could be called anytime. They come into the training room with their laptops on. Many of you who are facilitators, you will agree that when you are taking trainings, people have often been on their phone. They suddenly get a call from the operation floor. They just get up and go because their priorities are set. So we applied the ADDI model here, and the biggest takeaway, and I'll spend a minute here, for us was, don't try to boil the ocean in one go. Look at levels of training and make sure that each level of training is a promotion to the next level. So you are not only creating a set of agents who are new, aware and enabled, you are creating the second lot of trainers from beginners to intermediate to expert to advanced to ongoing SMEs. So it wasn't such that I had to only work with a group of, say, 10 subject matter experts who will do batch on batch training, like how a training institute runs. But I would like to look at every senior engineer, every principal engineer to basically enroll into my beginner or my intermediate or my expert or advanced trainer module and create new facilitators every time that I am basically trying to enable my new joiners. Of course, I'm talking of a scenario where a company is in a growth phase, which is not the case right now in the COVID scenario. But we really can't say. There are businesses, for instance, Tesco, who hired 47,000 employees between February and August worldwide just to enable their supply chain management and delivery across the world. So imagine a model which is constantly churning out people, and how many facilitators or trainers you would require to keep that momentum. So this was a very interesting project that we did. We took 6 months to really see results of it. One of the biggest results that we got was there were a set of people who just did fantastic beginner training. They were there in the company for a year, year and a half, maybe 2 years. They met these new joiners. They will finish a 90-minute module, complete the beginner training, the assessment was done. Then these new joiners come, job shadow on the floor, and they are ready. Some of them had the knack to take the assessment and become an intermediate training expert. Some of them went to the next advanced level. So at the end of 3 quarters, 2 quarters to get the first result, at the end of 3 quarters, we realized that when we evaluated the trainees who were trained by these people, which is basically doing a 30, 60, 90, all of you are familiar with, we realized that there has been a consistency of the beginner training, there has been a consistency in the intermediate training. Where we needed focus and improvement was in the expert and advanced training. In any quick guesses, why did we need any kind of intervention in expert and advanced? Because it's a natural thing, right? Expert and advanced training will be done by subject matter expert. Why did we need any intervention there? Beginner and intermediate was all going fine. Any quick thoughts? maybe in interest of time, I'll try and answer that. Um, the expert and advanced training was done only by the SMEs. And these SMEs are often veterans in the organization. So they have been there in just one mode. Their experience of learning has possibly somewhere paused. So when we tried to ask them to deliver the training at the beginner level, there was very limited interest. But when we got new trainers into it, the interest was much high, and hence the delivery was great. Of course, that's a different case study. How did we improve on the expert and the advanced subject matter expert? But the application of ADDI in designing the module, in analyzing the need and breaking it, in expecting the outcome and how did we implement, was something which almost then became a process document after almost doing it for 3 quarters. And then it was like a seamless engine which did not require a learning team intervention. It did not require an HR intervention. It was business owned and delivered. Um, it's not as rosy as every model. There are challenges. I think when we look at train the trainer as a model, uh, not everybody has a knack to be a trainer, right? That was one of the first questions I said. Not every organization opens up arms to say that, can I take that amount of a risk, if I have to say, on building more facilitators in the organization? And you might have great like Santan mentioned, they have a complete engine that is fueling these trainers, that is building capability and competency. But at the end of the day, the delivery of that capability and competency for somebody else to pick up a new skill and not the person who is developing it is definitely still a gray area in many organizations. Some of them have cracked it, many are to follow. One of the things I wanted to really spend some time, and I think there were many interesting notes that Sayantan also made. For me, a trainer who comes in from any background, business, technology, behavioral, competency based, I think pretty much falls in these three buckets. In fact, some of the icons that Shantan and me have used, especially the hand one, is also common. The reason, because I guess we both feel, or most of us in this call feel, that you cannot be a trainer till your credibility has been built, proven, or you have a subject matter expert that generates respect and pride in your camaraderie. Some of us are seasoned trainers and still we are attending this session. So that constant curiosity for us to see what else can we learn. Like the storytelling method, right? Everybody has a story. How to tell that story makes the entire difference. How could we go ahead and try to use these pearls in our training so that you're speaking, you're also listening, and then you are trying to address it. There is a transparency which brings in credibility, and it doesn't come overnight. It becomes even more tough if it is in a virtual platform. Like for instance, my own camera being on and my own face reflecting, I have for the moment turned it and make it really small because it is distracting me. So I would imagine that if I would see 20 faces of different people with different body language as a trainer, I might get completely distracted. I don't know if how many of you are aware of the Landmark Forum. This is not the Landmark group I'm talking about. The Landmark Forum, this is an organization has been there for a few decades, who work on a lot of human emotional and intelligence quotient development. It has various levels of courses on the lines of inner engineering and all. Pretty interesting ones, and some of them I have enrolled myself as a mentee to few mentors there. Great public speakers. And one thing I learned from Landmark Forum, which I want to share it with all of you, is the forum thrives on train the trainer model. They pick up real life survivors, real life healthy survivors, and fighters to go ahead and pass on the message of how to lead a life, how to be effective, how to reach your goals, how to attain a certain amount of success and satisfaction in your life. I also work with the Iron Lady chapter for Bangalore and for India, which is more on the side of empowering women. The entire organization thrives again on train the trainer. So when we look at organizations which are socially relevant, you will find picking up people to become train the trainer more easily. But when you look at a corporate scenario, it is slightly challenging. Coming on to the box on the right side of the screen, which is Rapport, we all try to do that. We all try to do it in every single thing. I think the toughest job for us is always breaking the ice. And for me, there's nothing that comes handy than humor, right? Making somebody else laugh, making somebody else relate to is the toughest job. And the only thing that comes in action is examples. Last but not the least, in a virtual world, I can't see your visual nods, I can't see your body language. But I would really want to pay attention to what is being told, what is being said, and what is not being said. I think as a trainer, um, engaging with trainees, I know some of you ask these questions. I have a slide towards the end of my presentation, which is not very long, which is something I've recently tried, and maybe I will touch upon that to see how that engages with the trainees, and maybe in a virtual world, which we don't know for how long it's going to continue, might help. So this is something that I wanted to share. This is something we do in our current organization. It's called Learning Circles. Many organizations do this. This is not a technical training at all. This is purely leadership development, management, soft skills, and all of those. And I want to be pretty upfront and say that we have budget constraints. We really cannot go ahead and call a Stephen Covey, or we cannot, and we cannot do that at that level, because all of these programs have to have extreme level of customization. And at this point in time, when the business is still discovering itself, coming out of COVID, I may not be able to go ahead and get a vendor, get a subject matter expert to deliver it. I'm sure some of us would have faced it in some form or the other, where we have prioritized our budgets on things. To even build a learning culture in organizations which are not as big as possibly some of the big brand names in the country, itself is a challenge. And this particular, the reason I picked this up was, when you work with engineers, you must have always seen that catching their span of attention for things like situational leadership, conflict management, they're like, bus, yeah, that's it. I mean, when the conflict comes, I will manage, I'll give it to HR. So what we did here is, we had to basically get a sponsorship, and the sponsorship was internal. We went ahead to 3 or 4 really influential people who were at the leadership level, and created a committee with them. And sometimes working with them, you actually work for them, because you make it your agenda to make them work for you, to basically deliver this kind of a training or content. But when your trainees, that your attendees attend this session, they are not listening from somebody who they have never seen. They know that they're going to meet the same person elsewhere in the office. So they actually have a great attendance in this particular scenario. The evaluation of this is still undergone, but I think what we are trying to create, and it is a difficult journey, I will not say the success has come that easily, of getting your leadership signing up for creating leaders in the organization. I wanted to spend a little time on something that I have done in these challenging times. I've tried creating avatars. These are like mascots, which build a lot of pre-interest before a session actually starts. Less video, less text. I think Sayantan spoke about a flexible agenda. You don't get a visual nod or a body language. So can you move your agenda around? Make it a comprehension method of giving a training, which means there is a paragraph, there are questions, people answer it, which is like a case study but much smaller. That that develops a certain amount of interest rather than just about having presentation as one of the modes. We always have to keep time for technical difficulties. We will be not able to share screen, voice will go out. I think there were some examples quoted earlier where people had to just go through the voice call. Getting feedback. I think Praveen's doing a fantastic job of trying to look at putting a gold, diamond, or any kind of catchy feedback mechanism. But we need to look at engaging people on social media. I think LinkedIn and WhatsApp have been great helpers in building this. There is another tool that I use pretty effectively is having like company telegrams, which are more than 256 people if you have. This is more than a particular department, where you engage people with your pre-reads, with this avatar. Try to get in their mind share. Sometimes you might have to also divulge what is the takeaway. Only then people actually decide to walk into your training. All right. I rushed in because I think we had blocked everybody's time till 1. So I really didn't want to go overboard on time. Any thoughts, any questions, anything that you guys have a point of view? I'll be really happy to hear, to understand, and possibly if there is some improvement that could be done, I'll be really happy to answer those. I'm stopping my screen share to be able to see everyone. I know it's just about lunchtime.
I think with enough starters on learning effectiveness, everybody would be hungry. Okay, guys. So look forward to your queries, questions, so that Sweetie can answer from her experience. Right, this session is as valuable as many inquiries that you raise, because it's supposed to be a two-way interaction. And feel free to ask any specific question that you would want to, and till like audience answer a question,
Hi.
right? Yeah, please go ahead.
Hi, Sweetie. This is Shreyas here. I just want to, thank you for a fantastic session. I think it was very nice, and you talked about certain concepts. Obviously, ADDIE is a very important concept. I actually liked the last few slides which you had, where you had those 4 important areas. One was virtual avatars, comprehension, keeping it short, less videos. I think those are very important points which you made. I just wanted to know a little bit more on what would you think from a virtual avatar perspective. Could you just give some examples of how you've done that, or how's that really worked out for you?
Yeah, sure. So I can name that for you. So we basically created a character, and this we kept diversity and inclusion in mind. So every time this character will change, it could be like, with no offense, guys, it could be a man, a woman, the third gender. It could be somebody who is a Black American. We named the character the same just to bring in the recall value, and the name was something in the order of Marco, which is very easy to remember. Nobody can make a pronunciation mistake. There was a prep activity that what will Marco do? So when I'm doing, for instance, a leadership intervention training program, and this was more for not the technical training, but for the behavioral training side. And one of the programs was how to make impactful presentation. So we used to have Marco and like a thinking bubble, saying that Marco has this presentation, which is a very verbose presentation. 4 options, what will Marco do? So what will Marco do became like a chain of email, which used to reach to your audience, who is your target trainees. a couple of days before the training program starts. Then Marco will look at the answers and send a pre-read saying that Marco has decided to create this pre-read. And every time throughout your presentation, you are basically building Marco to be somebody where every manager is able to relate to. Now, this doesn't require any kind of a major gamification, because whenever we go with a lot of high-end gamification, you might maybe lose the content at some point in time. But this is like a 10 slider. So it's Marco's problem, Marco's solutions, Marco's takeaway, and then he goes to the next business problem. So there is a recall factor. There is a pre-interest that it generates, and there are takeaways that you can like have a leaflet sort of a thing. Of course, when we were in office, we used to have this pin up and all of those created. Now everything is virtual, but we've tried sending push messages or other push emails to people's mailbox every like the 20th day milestone, the 40th day milestone, with the same avatar. So it's more like creating a recall factor, and every time there is learning, you will say, okay, now what does this catch for? And hopefully you will be able to, at the end of maybe doing a number of training programs, you can build one thread through it saying that now Marco knows what is talent management, what is performance management, what is competency management, and he's fit to be now a manager managing people.
Thank you. That was very interesting, and it's a very good technique which you followed. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much. I am pretty much active on LinkedIn, so any of you wish to, please connect. I'm going to try and send an invite to most of you all. I've made a note of your names just to increase my network and learn from each other.